Welcome to my Final Fantasy 15 demo impressions video, and firstly I'd like to thank you guys for waiting through such a long intro, but the first point I'd like to talk about is the music in Final Fantasy 15. The music is composed by Yoko Shimomura, the same woman who has composed music for games such as Kingdom Hearts, the Super Mario RPG games, and worked in a collaboration effort to compose music for Xenoblade Chronicles. Fortunately to say, Yoko does not disappoint in Final Fantasy 15. Not that I was expecting it, but the music is really good, and if you are a fan of Japanese video game music, you should be excited for this game's soundtrack. I know I'm not the only person alive when looking forward to playing a new game that the music is one of the first aspects I learned to appreciate from. Secondly, upon turning on and actually playing the demo, I feel as if you are immediately drawn into the atmosphere of Duscae. And a huge part of that is coming from the graphics. All in all, the game looks really good, and the art style is very pleasing while realistic looking. It still gives off a fantasy vibe feeling to it, and that deserves a huge nod to the design of almost everything in the game. The main characters, designed by Tetsuya Nomura, the artist designer known widely from the Kingdom Hearts series, the enemies, and even environmental and landscape design decisions. It all looks very good and complements the art design decisions very well and leaves the player feeling like they are in a fictional world regardless of its semi-realistic graphical fidelity. The main characters are highly detailed and hair that looks better than almost any next-gen game I've played so far. Hell, even the non-playable characters seem to be a lot more detailed compared to other games. This isn't to say that there aren't any issues. Some of the most glaring problems will have to be frame rate drops and some muddy textures, giving you a reminder that the game started development on the PS3.
Is it dangerous after dark around here?
Most likely. We'd best ponder our lodgings as we go.
Next is the actual gameplay, and this is the part where things can be a little iffy. Your main form of combat would be your basic attacks, pretty much just holding or mashing the X button. X on Xbox One and square for the PS4. Doing this will allow you to do 3 to 4 slashing animations at an attempt to defeat your foe. You can scroll through and select different finishing moves depending on which blade or sword you choose to use. And depending on the situation and or how many enemies you are facing at once, you probably find yourself switching between them pretty often. As of now, I'm going to blame this on being an unfinished product, is that Noctis has far too few animations within combat. If I remember correctly, only 3 sword slashing animations, and then they repeat all over again, making battles a bit of a chore, along with the lack of air combat. I find giving the player the option to teleport to high places and do jump attacks a bit silly if you are very limited while doing so. Another issue, and probably one that makes fighting enemies strenuous, could be the camera. The camera is very unpolished. Fighting one simple saber tooth could be a bit challenging at times, but things always seem to run all over the place, and even while locking on, the dedication of actually pinpointing them could be a struggle. I mean, once you attack them and are comboing, it's very easy to handle them, but other than the fact that the camera is a pain, even taking on something as big as a behemoth could be a little silly trying to stay locked on and keep in sight. While playing the main missions of the demo, you are sent off to go to a troll-filled cavern, in which upon completing this dungeon-like area, you are awarded with a summon. The reason of getting this summon is so that you can use it in order to defeat the behemoth, which is also a main objective in the game. I'm sure you can beat the behemoth without the summon. I got it to maybe about 10% health left once, which took about 30 to 40 minutes, but it was only because I did not know how to use the summon. In order to use the summon, you have to pretty much be pretty close to death. Noctis' life has to be almost depleted. You hold down the A button or X on the PS4 and the whole atmosphere and weather changes around you. It gets dark and there's a storm brewing, and out comes Ramuh. He basically takes care of any enemy or enemies regardless of help, and then he leaves. There's debris and colorful magical particles flying everywhere and gives off a very awesome looking effect. I'm not sure how this will be handled in the final version of the game, but as of now, it seems like it was put in the demo just for WoW and or cinematic factor. I expect the mechanics of a summon implemented differently in the final game.
Easy as they come.
Not to express too much of my satisfaction on the atmosphere of the game again, but I must go back and explain what I meant by episode didnt drawing you in. The game really lends itself to the feeling they are going for. The feeling of some guys going on a road trip really shines, and that is exactly what Square is aiming for with this title. The didnt area in the demo has all sorts of camping grounds where you can level up and even practice sparring to brush up on your skills. A small chocobo shop with a classic chocobo theme playing in a sweet harmonica. The attention to detail also plays a huge role here, especially upon entering a cavern, or when night falls, the flashlights on the main characters turn on, giving you the feeling that you are indeed adventuring at night or in a poorly lit cave. The vegetation looks just as good at night as it does in the daytime. I also noticed that even while standing still, you can watch something as simple as the sun setting and see the moon carry along as the night grows darker. Regardless whether or not what I've liked or didn't like, the fact remains that this is still an unfinished product, and to base any opinions on it at all is simply an unreasonable thing to do in comparison to the final release. Final Fantasy 15 still has about a year or so to go, probably even longer knowing Square Enix. As evident in this demo impressions video, it deserves to be more polished than what Square Enix would like to nowadays. I liked episode didnt and found it very enjoyable. As far as demos go, this could possibly be one of the best I've ever played, offering more content than I'd expected and even the ability to save the game. I am looking forward to seeing more from this game in a couple months at E3 and eventually its release. Well, that about wraps it up. This was my impressions video on Final Fantasy 15, and I'm Yeezus, and until next time, peace out.